All right, well, I think we'll get started. We seem to have a nice crowd tonight. Thank you for coming. My name is Greg Anderson. I work with SCH. We do the engineering with the city. With me tonight is Tom Schaefer with U.S. Aquatics. He worked on the pool study that the pool committee put together and forwarded to the Public Works Commission and City Council. And that presentation that Tom did for the council is what he'll do tonight, kind of walking through the process on how they ended up with the design and such like that on the pool. Just a couple of notes. This year, the city had budgeted about $200,000 in repairs for the pool itself. That was just parking lot painting, maintenance. This past summer, as the budget was getting put together, Public Works felt that maybe the time would be now to take a look at the pool rather than just take that $200,000 into maintenance. That does not address any of the ADA issues the pool currently has. The pool is not ADA compliant. If they were to do any improvements to it, we'd be required to make it ADA compliant. So the Public Works Commission thought, you know what, why don't we take a look at studying what a new facility would entail and what it would cost? And that's kind of how we've gotten to where we are tonight. U.S. Aquatics was hired. A committee was formed with residents. Tom Burrs from Public Works. Linnell was on the committee from the City Hall. They worked a number of months, came up with a proposal, presented it to the Public Works Commission, and they forwarded it on to the City Council in December, and they decided to move forward with a referendum. They felt that this would be a community asset and that maybe the community should vote on this because it's going to be a big price tag, and they wanted the voters to have some input on this expenditure. They also asked that we have a couple open houses. We had one last month before the second council meeting, and we're having the one tonight. I mentioned the ADA compliance, the issues, the repairs on the parking lot, and the city just felt, you know what, maybe now's the time to take a look at studying the pool, what a new facility would be. Right now, the pool does not operate in the black. It operates in the red every year, and Tom can get more into that as he does the study. So that maybe we get a facility that would break even or maybe make a little money on operations. Granted, we're going to have a large capital inlay if this moves ahead, but maybe that's something to look at. And also, the current facilities offered at the pool, maybe there's some other things out there who might be able to attract more people to the pool. So that's kind of the stuff that the committee looked at, and I'll turn it over to Tom now to walk through the slideshow, and then we'll open it up to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. In working with the pool committee for several months, what you see here is a summary of what is in the full report that the pool committee approved and then recommended to the city council. So based on that, just wanted to show that we did go through with the pool committee a methodological approach at studying the existing facility, identifying concerns, issues, program elements, then come up with conceptual designs. There were several options that the committee looked at, and then they took bits and pieces of that, evaluated those, and then made the recommendations. Just a shot of the existing site. So the pool committee did feel that if this was going to be a major renovation because of the existing site, it was chosen by the pool committee to redo the pool, staying with the existing site. There weren't any other sites in town that would be more advantageous to doing this. And with this, we could use parts of the excavation that was there to put the new pool in place. You'll see it's about in the same spot so that we don't have to worry about dynamiting any granite or anything like that. This is, again, a summary, but just shows some of the existing concerns with the existing facility. There is no ADA access to the bathhouse. There's no ADA compliance within the bathhouse, and there's no ADA access from the bathhouse out onto the deck, nor is there any ADA access into the pool. The other concerns that we have is that the concrete deck has been repaired and portions of it have been replaced to the point where there are a lot of differential settlement with the deck. So there's a lot of toe stubbers that are not outside of code compliant. Ingress and egress into the pool is with stairs that have 11-inch risers on them so that the staff actually has to help people in and out of the pool, several of the pool users. The other thing that we discovered when we went through this is that the pool vessel itself is not structurally stable anymore, especially the two photographs you see to the left show that inside corner of the pool is not structurally sound anymore. The concrete is actually delaminating from the reinforcing steel. And with doing this for many, many years, what that's an indication of is that the reinforcing steel in the concrete is rusted out to the point where it's not providing any tensile strength to the structure. So it's likely to fail at some point. The mechanical equipment is very old, and operationally it's very expensive to run and maintain. We looked at existing demographics of the Cannon Falls area and really found out something very interesting is that Cannon Falls is really made up of a large portion of young families, which is a greater percentage of the population. We then studied the history of the facility in terms of revenue and expenses, and this is from 2013 expenses versus revenue, which is getting worse every year in terms of subsidizing the operation of the pool. The pool committee really focused on the needs of the primary area of Cannon Falls for what they wanted to propose for a newer facility or updated facility. But they did also take into consideration a secondary area so that they could attract other people in and really drive some revenues up and attendance up. Some of the aquatic features and amenities that the pool committee chose in going through this, obviously the support facility, which is the bathhouse, which we need, and what that may look like and how that might function. Core facility was a multi-use pool that would have a lap area, a deep area for diving and climbing walls, and then also a zero depth area for the small kids or grandparents with children that feel comfortable getting in the pool. Shade structures, which are not presently there at the facility, and a concession area. Looked at water slides. There are quite a few to choose from. What the committee kind of settled on was that they'd have two slides. One is a open-bodied flume slide, and the other one would be an enclosed tube slide. Very different ride experiences. Also a drop slide, which is a slide that goes into the deep water of the pool. Pool committee chose to go with 1 meter diving boards and an aqua climb. So it's a climbing wall for the water. Climb up to the top and then you jump off into the water. Ground sprays in that zero depth area. They're interactive in that the kids can play with the water and manipulate the water and what it does, jumping around. Family slide in that shallow area. And some other interactive play amenities for the shallow water. In going through the various parts of the design and what kind of program elements and what kind of water they needed for that, that took quite a process with the pool committee, but that kind of boiled down to going with a two-pool concept so that they could be easy to staff and maintain the aquatic programs that the community needs. And so we really came up with a concept A, which you see the water slides going into the multi-purpose pool, and the splash pool or zero depth entry pool would not have any water deeper than 2 feet. The other concept was a little bit different in that we put the pool committee put the water slides into the more leisure pool and looked at that, and there's quite a bit of difference in how you staff that and how the pool functions. So at the end, the pool committee kind of did a hybrid of both of those concepts. did elect to keep the water slides into the multi-purpose pool where there's the deep water and the lap swimming, and then in the splash pool to keep that more family, more leisure orientated. We looked at the site and the condition of the parking lot with respect to the bathhouse, and what the recommendation is to raise the parking lot a little bit and lower the pool a little bit so that there isn't that 6-foot elevation difference from the parking lot into the entrance of the bathhouse. So we're trying to get them up close to the same elevation so that we can meet ADA requirements. We looked at cost estimate for the proposed facility. This is the cost estimate that was in the study. The pool committee did ask us after the first public forum to revisit this, to go through it, vet the numbers, make sure they're right, and if they were to present it. This proposal, or this cost estimate you see here, is within $800 of the estimate that was in the study. So the numbers have been vetted, they're real. The other thing that I do want to point out that the pool committee thought was important was that to do a base project and then add alternates, so that there is a project that could be awarded that would stay under the $3.5 million range. And they did that. We worked very hard, the pool committee worked very hard to do that. And then to have some add alternates to add things, either if bids come in favorable, to add them now, or to add them in the future as they can. All the infrastructure for those things would be in the base project. So when you do look at the bottom number, if that was all the add alternates and the bids did come in favorable, this project could be delivered with everything for under $4 million. We did have, I think the city had Ellers look at some tax implications in running a referendum at a referendum cap at $4.25 million over 20 years, and what the tax implications would be. There is a representative here tonight, George, from Northland. He can answer any questions about those. We did ask them to also run one at $3.5 million. If the council, if the bids came in favorable and the council decided that they weren't going to sell bonds in excess of $3.5 million, what would be the tax implication at $3.5 million? So we had them run one as well for that. We did put in a construction timeline. Because of the condition of the existing pool and bathhouse, and because of the amount of money to just get the thing open next spring, the pool committee did recommend to the city council that the pool not be opened this summer, the existing pool. So based on that, they said, what could a probable timeline be? So we did put in a referendum date of March 3rd, and the goal here is to deliver a completed facility in May of 2015 with a grand opening in probably mid-June. We also did, for the pool committee, want to know what projections we could come up with for revenue and expenses for the proposed facility. Again, this is based on a complete facility with all the amenities. We did 2 or 3 generations of this before the pool committee said, yes, this is the one that we want to recommend. It does show a slight operational revenue. So this is showing that it would operate in the black. The goal of the pool committee was to at least break even operationally. And then this is the final proposed facility as the pool committee recommended to city council. I think, yep, that's it. So if we want to open it up to questions. Probably want the lights back on.
How did they get the cost of it when we just built the library for 1.4? Why is this $2 million more than our library?
Well, it's a complete different building type. I mean, it is. This is what this is what it costs to build these with the amenities as shown. The other thing, though, is that depending on how much local contractors get involved in this, you know, this can come in even less than what we're projecting. But this is based on comparable facilities that we've done of this size.
I was wondering, to me, the timing here is poor with the library and the hospital. And I've talked with a lot of seniors, so I think I can kind of speak for them. I'm not against progress, and it would be wonderful to have a great new pool like this, but I think the plan there is so grandiose and fancy. I don't think our population warrants something this expansive. And if you couldn't achieve a profit and break-even point with the old pool, you're talking about this expense of over $4 million. Do you want to just put that into perspective and say, well, we hope to break even? How do you know you can even achieve that? I mean, I'm on a limited budget, and a lot of my neighbors are. And I'm not against progress, I'm not against a pool. But I'm saying, couldn't you build a pool for $2 or $3 million? Isn't that a possibility? And eliminate why all these slides, the tents, the laps, the whole thing? It seems like this is for a larger community.
Well, there's a few questions there, but let me try to answer them. What the process is that the pool committee went to is to look at comparable facilities in other communities of about the same size and what they were doing and what they had previously, and if that increased attendance was there, and what kind of revenues were they generating. So what the facts and figures are based on is comparable projects that have been done in communities of about the same size.
Yeah, but have they had expansions with hospitals and libraries like we have?
Some of them have, some of them haven't.
Well, I'd like to see more of that information. Right, what are the communities?
But just so we make sure that we're not misrepresenting anything, when we say break even, that's just operationally. It won't retire any debt, no. So it's not going to, there's nothing, they're not going to make enough money to retire any debt service. It's just to break even operationally of expenses versus revenue.
When was the last time that the pool did make a profit?
In looking back at the records, we went back 6 years and we didn't find any.
So the deterioration of the pool, and I agree it's deteriorating, and I'd like to see it upgraded, but the pool has not really been a profit maker.
No, and even after the wading pool was filled in and the splash deck was done, that was probably about the best year, and that wasn't even profitable. That's true. But as the pool's deteriorating, you can see that expenses are going up and attendance is going down. Yeah.
But if the attendance is down, if you ever try to get in that pool in the summer, it's a good babysitting place for a kid. You could go 2 people without paying for a kid. With something like this, you probably get more adults. The slides bring in the money because they bring in the kids, more kids. But if there's an area for adults, more adults can get there. Otherwise, you can't get in that pool. Unless it's before, which is where the money is. Everybody go in, let them pay.
Which is why the pool committee decided on 2 separate bodies of water. Yeah.
You can't get in the pool during the day. There's too many kids. There's no adults going to want to go in there and swim.
You're going from
You're not going to in
38,000,
there.
you said on the old pool, is that correct? Can you project, the old pool you said did what, 38,000 a year last year
In revenue?
in revenue?
Which is, oops. Oh, let's go back a ways. From 2013?
Yes.
Yeah, the revenues, you're right, the revenues were 38,000, the expenses were 89, yeah.
So now you're projecting 138,000. So what, 4 times more. And you were talking about retiring the debt. The way I figure it, it's $320,000 a year to service that debt over 20 years to the city or the taxpayers. It costs you $4,900 a day to have that pool open. If you want to figure in all the expenses. Just the cost of operating it is one thing. Now, did the pool committee go to Red Wing or Hastings? They have the same thing. And find out what they made, because I heard Red Wing's already closed theirs up. They lost $260,000 is what I heard last year. Now, that'd be an easy phone call to make. And you got Hastings, the cities are 4 times bigger with the same setup, all they do. Did the pool committee go there? Because that's where we gotta start before it goes anywhere. They're losing that kind of money. Once you make this commitment, you're stuck for 20 years.
Red Wing did just hire us to go and do a study on what they could do to renovate that facility to get attendance up and operating costs down.
So how much did they lose last year?
It wasn't 260, but I heard it was in the upper 100,000, yes.
So no one really knows.
That's true. Yeah.
Hastings got the same thing. Anybody go there? And they have 20,000 people in Red Wing. We got 4,000.
But they're not identically set up as this one.
But they got 4 times the people. I'm sorry, but if you build this pool, I mean, to get $138,000 out of it in 90 days, I figured you got to have 500 kids a day at $3 a piece average to do it. And I heard last year there was Sundays this pool wasn't open because no one went. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so here you got a pool that wasn't even open for lack of people.
It was open for parties, and that's why they decided to group the parties together on Sunday, because it was typically a slow day. That way they could kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and have the parties on Sunday, so.
So, but what do you get for a party? Costs $5,000 a day to have that pool open. I don't think it's fair that you close it for a $100 party.
Versus being closed, so that was the opposite. You can't have it open for 8 people even, that's what we kind of
What were the
decided.
party revenues last year?
What's that?
What were the party revenues, yes?
I don't know if that's split out separately. I don't know.
This was a total, so I mean this is what was yeah.
Typically, you know, in the cities I've worked with and confronted on this, your pool's gonna lose about $600 to $1,000 a day. I don't care where you go. I was in Kenyon for 10 years, same way. Pool's not ever gonna be a money maker. You have to weigh out what does it mean to the community? What is it worth to the community? So I'm just saying, I don't see a time when at this pool you would ever break even on the existing pool. And I'm not trying to back up his figures either. I'm just saying what it is. Typically, you lose about $800 a day.
My opinion is, this is one small part of Cannon Falls, and the city's over $20 million in debt. No one's addressed South End yet. All the money that's got to be spent there for roads. The city council's got to address all these other issues before they ever think about pool. Because if this is $4 million and it passes, you're at 24. They could spend another $6 million in the next year or 2 years. It isn't going to be the taxes of $4 million, it's going to be a taxes of $10 million on our taxes.
Yes.
My 2 questions go to the, again, kind of this, in some ways, his question about how we come up with that $138,000. Because I really question 2 underlying things, and maybe you can address that for me. The first is that the document is based upon, if I understand it correctly, a 90-day season. And in the last 20 years, I don't think we've come anywhere close to having the pool open 90 days in the season. Because it never opens until about the 10th of June. And it always closes 10 days before the 1st of September because of all the lifeguards that have to go back to college. Then it's not open on Sundays. And then it's closed because they've got less than X number of kids there and so on and so forth. You just throw some rough numbers together, it looks to me like that's about a 52. So that's my first question. I'd like you to help me understand where the 90 came from. And the second question is the attendance numbers that are used in here. I'm gathering that you pulled them out of some sort of statistical manual. There's 20% of the population using that kind of a number and so on and so forth. And what I'd really like to see told is what was the attendance in the last 5 years, because that's what's going to be the attendance for the next 5 years, except for the first year when everybody's curious about what's going on. That then could be multiplied by the cost figures that you got here, and you're not going to come anywhere close to $138,000 in my opinion.
All right.
So the two questions
You
are,
can't.
where did the 90 days come from?
Okay.
And where did the attendance come from?
All right. 90 days comes from the pool committee's desire that this would be open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So out of a possible 101 days, there would be 90 days that it would be open.
So it's a desire.
Yes. That was a goal, yeah.
Okay.
And the second question is, where did we get the attendance for the new model versus the old model?
Well, I haven't seen any attendance numbers for the old one.
All right.
Am I missing something? Was it there and I just missed it?
Yeah, it was. I don't know how much it was broken down, but it was, yeah, we had those records. If they weren't in the study, we can get them.
I would appreciate
They're available.
Okay. I didn't know they were available.
No, I don't have them right here in front of me, no.
Keep going, I'm sorry.
But the projections aren't based off of the old pool. The projections are based off of the proposed pool. And what we use to make those projections on attendance is comparable facilities that are getting those type of attendance numbers when they have a facility in a community of about this size offering those type of aquatic amenities that are in the proposal.
But just
Why
to,
is Red Wing having problems?
I don't know why Red Wing's having a problem. We'll do a study to find out.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't compare that to the.
I didn't compare Red Wing to this
No,
one.
I know you didn't, but I'm just saying, for the size of our community, they're having problems, and maybe they've got 20,000 people. It just seems like a no-brainer to me.
What we used for comparables was Gaylord, Casson, La Crescent, Sleepy Eye. We use those communities that are all either about the same size or smaller than Cannon Falls.
They have the same
And then they have the
facility.
same thing, the same facility?
Similar?
Well, how similar?
Well, we're not cookie cutters. We design from the input of the pool committee and what they see as a vision for the aquatics program in Cannon Falls. Are there some similarities to other facilities in terms of size and bather load and things like that? Yes, there are. Some of them have 2 bodies of water, some of them have 1. Some of them have 3 slides, some of them have 1. So, I mean, they're little, but they're comparable.
Are we going to be voting on this, the community itself, or is just the city council going to take the recommendation from that?
The city council said, let's take this to the vote of the people and let the people decide whether they want this or not. Right. And that vote is March 3rd, which is 2 weeks from last night. Yes.
And then, is this, did they come up with anything, or if it gets voted down, what's going to happen after that? Let's say it gets voted down. Is there so much money that needs to be put in the existing pool to keep it going, or are we just going to shut it down? Or what?
Yeah, yes, and I heard somebody up here saying it's the first they heard that this is going to a vote. So, yes, it is a referendum that the citizens, voting citizens of Cannon Falls.
Notices. If I hadn't have been here tonight, I wouldn't know.
Is it not, it's publicized, right? Okay, okay. All right, well then, we're glad you're here. But yes, this was a decision that the city council made to take it to the vote of the people, absolutely. What if it fails? There's 2 options. Put roughly $300,000 into Band-Aiding or repairing the existing pool, or close it.
And that would be the council decision.
And that would be a city council decision, absolutely.
The last meeting, you said $1.9 million to fix that pool. There's quite a difference from 300 in a month.
Yes, $1,880,000 would take that facility and rejuvenate it to be a good operating facility that meets all the codes. What we're talking about with $300,000 is to get it to a point where it could last another 3 to 5 years, not to completely redo it, no.
Referendum on that, both options on it. Should be 300, 4 million.
Maybe that's another discussion if the referendum fails.
Hey, hi, I'm Jeremy. And just to preface this, I'm on the Public Works Commission. Was on the committee to study the pool. And I have to vote yes. Okay, so I understand I'm not going to sway every vote here. But I'm speaking as part of the vote yes. So here's the risk here's the question I would ask you, is how much money are you willing to put into that pool and have it closed the very next day? That's the question we need to be talking about. Because $300,000, any health inspector, any federal person, any ADA person can walk into that the day after we spend $300,000 and close it. Because we still would not meet 100% of ADA compliance. We have to re-pour the pool deck. It's more than just getting a wheelchair into the facility or having a parking stall up at the same level. It's way more than that. And so if we want to get it 100% ADA compliant, we're looking at $1.8 million. And so the question is, how much money do you want to put into a vehicle that's got 400,000 miles on it? Or do you just go out and buy a new vehicle? There's been references of poor timing. I would say just the opposite. We're getting a $30 million Mayo facility. That's $20 million of that's coming from Mayo. Most of the rest of it's coming from philanthropy. It's not coming from taxes. I know that because I was on the committee to help raise the money.
Well, the hospital collected their taxes for 7 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
$2 million of it came from property taxes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And now that tax is off of your tax rolls.
Right.
You're actually saving money on it. The library, again, most of that was done from philanthropy. Some of the city money was on there. Interest rates have never been lower than they are today, which makes it an excellent time. If we're going to do a bond, now's the time. The other thing I'll say about money is we can guess. Okay, the reason it's on the ballot up to $4.25 million is because we can make all the guesses of money we want, but until the bids come in, we have no idea what it would cost. Okay, and again, the question I would ask you, to open it this year, to repave the parking lot, to repaint the pool, and to operate it this year is going to be at least $200,000. Are we going to fix anything? Well, then there's another $300,000. Now we're going to do it for $500,000, and we still have a pool built in 1969. That tomorrow the wall could fall in and we're done. Do you really want to spend $500,000 for 6 days, or 90 days, or 2 years? I don't know. I don't know.
There's a question I have, Paul. It appears to me as though only one company has quoted on this project.
No, 0 companies.
0 companies have quoted on this.
Well, there's prices being thrown out here that it could be built for so much.
All estimates.
All estimates.
We
I would say, if I may, there's $376,000 in consultant fees. There's construction management fees of $264,000. I believe bond sale commission of $200,000. That's $840,000. It's not going to move a shovel of dirt or a yard of cement. Now, 2 of those people are standing right there that stand to make a lot of money. Understand, they're selling us. It's like a car sale. You got to take that into account. Because there's almost $1 million, almost 30% of the price of this pool is fees.
And actually, it's unfortunate, but that's not inaccurate.
Well, that's what they handed out last time.
Right. And that's not what the pool committee had actually approved and brought to the city council.
Well, all I'm going by the last
And
meeting.
I agree with you, but yes,
That's a lot of money, and everybody's got to take that into account.
Yeah.
But all of the professional fees, including the design and construction management, are 15.5%.
How does that come up to 15.5% on a $3 million pool?
Because 8% plus 2% plus 5.5% is 15.5%.
Okay, 15% on a $3 million, that's $450,000. I'm looking at 840 for the last.
That's exactly right. You have that, that's incorrect.
Okay, well, then that's what you gave us a month ago.
Okay, one thing, I think everybody, when you're saying everything was paid for at the hospital, because of this and all these projects were, money was, we didn't tax fully on the deal. One thing everybody should keep in mind is what's the debt load per real estate value in town. That's Sabroda, Montego, and you go around, for these people that own property in town, what is the debt, if you divided it all up, what does the debt load in town? And that's one thing to keep in mind when you keep pursuing more projects, because there is a limit. I would think for a lot of people that are on fixed incomes, the debt load was to be a little more, that's another issue. It'd be great to have that, but all I've been hearing is CannonFalls taxes are so high, and that's because of the debt load from different projects around here. And here's another project to bring it to us.
Are the taxes including all of the school district? In other words, those people outside of Cannon, the town of Cannon Falls, right 3 miles south, are we taxed too for it?
No, this is
And
just.
why not? Because we're in the school district.
When a project goes to referendum vote, it's only the eligible voters within the city limits,
But why isn't it?
because that's the tax base.
The
The
school
city,
would
if
build
more
into
people,
this.
the city does not have statutory authority to tax any place outside of our jurisdiction.
What is the
Really
total
wanna
debt
go
Cannon
with
Falls, if I may ask?
Pardon me?
What's Cannon Falls owe right now as a total?
What do they owe?
Yeah, total debt load.
It's right around that $20 million figure.
How long has it been at 20 million?
It's fluctuated over the last few years. It had gone down to about 17 million, and then required some additional debt because of the West Side project and the East Side project. So now it's back up to we did do some refunding bonds as well to take advantage of some interest savings. So we are looking at that as possibilities as we go as well.
How many years is the new sewer plant been there? Again, so
That was built in 2000 or 2001.
Is it paid for now after 12 years?
No. It's a 20-year project.
Can I get a clarification of the referendum? This actually might be a question for you. Is the referendum, and it's my understanding that we are authorizing the city council to bond up to this $4.2 million, it is not saying yes or no to the pool. So to address the question earlier, the city council will make the decision as to whether to go forward with the pool, unless we, as the citizens, turn down the bonding effort. But they can still be swayed one way or the other. If the referendum passes, it doesn't mean we have a pool.
The referendum vote does not bind the city council to move forward with the project.
Right, we're not
So we have
voting
to
for the
city-
project, we're voting to fund the project.
Right, it's, what that would do is it authorizes the city to spend up to that amount towards that project if the council chooses to go forward.
And by statute, the city has some sort of limit less than that?
What do you
By
mean?
state stat, well, I mean, can the council like bond $1 million on its own without coming to the people or what?
Yeah.
There's some number there, right?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity.
Well, it depends, I mean, we've done $3 million projects without going to a public referendum. You have a public hearing, it's a different process.
Okay.
And I asked about, we talked about $300,000 to fix the old pool, just to Band-Aid it, and then jump right up to the $4 million or 3.9. For this facility, what would we get for the 1.8, whatever, 1.9? I mean, you obviously build another new facility. It's not going to be just Band-Aiding the old one, correct? So what are we looking at for that 1.9
The $1.8 million figure is based on the fact that the vessel is not structurally sound anymore. So what they do is use that as a form only and really shotcrete or spray a new concrete pool inside of the old pool. Add a gutter system around the top because it just has surface skimmers. The surface skimmers aren't even level with each other anymore. Some suck air and some are flooded. So they put a new gutter system on, put a new inlet system on, new filtration system on it, new disinfection system, and then completely remodel the bathhouse to make it ADA compliant, plus get the parking lot to have ADA access from the parking lot to the bathhouse.
So for the 1.8, we get a facility that would be compliant in every way and basically a new pool.
Basically a new pool, but with none of the amenities that are shown. Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
What, so either or, you keep talking about either, viable.
There is a mid-range solution that the pool committee didn't think was really economically the right thing to do.
Okay.
There would be amenities to attract additional.
Correct. Basically, what you see is what would be there. Yeah, just new.
Did the pool committee discuss just shutting the pool down permanently and letting people go to Red Wing and Hastings and so forth?
We talked about it, but that would be a council decision. Once, if this is voted no, we will take those figures to the council and then they can decide, okay, what do we do? And I think their feelings is, as is mine, it's an expensive Band-Aid. Myself, I'd rather see it shut down than put $600,000 to make a patch, so to speak,
And then one other question, you started and you mentioned something about partials, and that actually was my fourth question. Can we, over 3 years, I'm pulling 3 years out of the air, but could we go with the pool structure but not put in all of the amenities, and then in the next year put in the bathhouse? Because you literally could bring in a trailer or something for a bathhouse for 1 year, and then the next year put up the good bathhouses, and then the third year put up all of the amenities. So in other words, you'd spread this out over 3 years.
What the pool committee decided is what you see up here is that in the base project would be a new bathhouse, new pool with that. Also in there is one water slide and some of the aquatic amenities, but putting some of the rest of them in alternates. Now they would be add alternates that you could take bids on, but you wouldn't necessarily have to award them. So the council could decide we're only going to award on base bid, and if base bid comes in at $3,600,000, the council could elect to award a base bid. This is when the bids actually come in. They could elect to award base bid and do the alternates in the future. But the mechanical systems to operate those future amenities are in the base bid, so they could be easily added on.
Do we know that if this pool were to be built, do we have a guarantee on what the admission charge would be for families or children?
It is something the pool committee talked about, and it's something that they're willing to make a recommendation to the city council on, but it is the city council's decision on what the attendance is going to be, daily, seasonal, whether there's going to be a resident fee and a non-resident fee. Those are all decisions the city council has to make, but the pool committee is willing to give recommendations to the city council, yes.
Our recommendation was a $1 increase. The current structure, I think, has been there for 20 years with no increase. And right now there is a resident and a non-resident fee, so you ask about how do non-residents pay for it, they have to pay a little bit more than do.
There was an increase.
But some of these facilities, when you look at, they made reference to Red Wing and Hastings. I think some of those downfalls have been when they built a pool like this, they would instantly go to about a $7 admission. Well, that killed their attendance. And so now they're struggling with that. We're looking at a $1 increase, which I still think is very minimal. We do have season passes currently, and we would still have season passes here. But another thing we looked at was revenue generation. Right now, we have zero revenue generation in the current facility, except for a person walking in the door. This will have a concession stand, but right now you can bring in food for free. We'll have a concession stand, so we can sell food. We can rent out party spaces and still be open on a Sunday. We can do so much more. We have a short course, so we can rent it to a swim club to have a swim meet there if need be. So we also looked at it a little bit more from a business mindset to say, how do we generate revenue there so that instead of paying somewhere between 50 and 60 or 70,000 or whatever that our existing pool is going to run us, try to break it even. So, which would be a savings to the average taxpayer.
But I guess I'd say, if you're gonna charge $100 for a party and you're charging $3 a head, you eliminate 50 kids from coming in because there's a party going on, you're just gonna make people mad.
That's the part of the design. We don't have to close the pool.
Well, one
We
party
don't
is
have
gonna be closed.
No, actually, it's not.
No,
It's the other
it
way.
won't.
We have rental cabanas, so if you want to have a party in there, you rent that space, and you have your party in a designated space. The pool is still open to the public, and we don't close the parties.
Private pool area for that party?
No. Public pool, we have a private meeting area to do gifts, or to open, presents, or cake, or whatever you want to do.
Are you gonna have a list of figures we can get the new ones in, different from a month ago, so we can go over it?
Yes. Can this be put on a city website or the present? Yeah.
I can check with Mike, but I believe so.
Okay.
Okay, well, the council meets in here in about 8 minutes, so we thank you all for coming. Remember, the vote is on the 3rd, 3-3, here at City Hall. For city residents, so, thank you.